Hey guys, welcome back to episode 3 of Exa Protocol's Web3 Deep Dive. Today, we will try to explain how DePIN actually works without any mumbo jumbo and jargons, we promise. So, let's begin. So, DePIN, first of all, let's get the cat out of the bag. It means Decentralized Physical Infrastructure Network. Now, how does it actually work? Why is it decentralized? We will explain it in the video in the most simplest ways. Now, imagine your Wi-Fi router. It is actually a physical infrastructure network, right? You are able to use your internet without any cables. In the same way, when you look at external GPUs, which are your graphical processing units in the computers, which help you play games, render in-game assets, and render 3D images, those are also physical infrastructure networks. Now let's make it really simple for you. For example, today you have a project that you want to render in pure 3D with the highest image class and the highest assets possible on Unreal Engine 5. Now that is really a very demanding task, and this is mainly seen in AAA game studios. Now what this actually does is, so for example, you want to render a level, you would need at least a minimum of 5 graphic cards, say an Nvidia RTX 4090, which is the best in the market. Now it needs that kind of graphical processing power, and you have all these 5 cards in the same place, which is your location. Now we would call that as centralized physical infrastructure network, because everything is connected to the same network, to the same systems, and to the same local internet provider, right? Now once we understand that, imagine due to some unforeseen technical error, one of the graphic cards amongst the 5 actually go out of business. That means your entire workflow stops, which is a huge no-no. Why? Because even when one graphic card goes offline, your entire workflow stops until that one graphic card doesn't come back online. And now if it is because of a physical error, that means you are stuck for a good few weeks or a few months, or even you would need substantial investment, because you would need to go and replace that graphic card out of pocket. Now that is the problem when we are using centralized infrastructure networks. Now imagine this, when we bring decentralization into the mix, that means none of those 5 graphic cards have to be in the same location. So 2 graphic cards might be in China, 2 graphic cards will be in India, and 2 graphic cards will be in US, and you need only 5 of these graphic cards to use for your workflow. Now this is where projects like Render come into play. Now what Render does, it takes the graphic cards that we possess, which is the end user, and which are lying idle, and maybe we are utilizing only 20% of the power on a day-to-day basis. The 80% of the power is just lying around doing nothing. Neither is it coming to our use, neither are we being able to use it for any other task, because everyone's computing power and computing demands are different. Now what Render does, it makes all these ideal graphic cards a part of a node system, like a mesh network. Now understand this, it doesn't matter which country or what is the location of that graphic card, those graphic cards now are under the same umbrella. Now I, as a demanding worker, I want these graphic cards to work for my workflow. So what I would simply do is tap into the Render network, see all the available graphic cards available on a node system, rent it out according to my needs, and then you as an end user get paid once your GPU goes online. So imagine this, your GPU, which was lying idle for the longest period of time, or which was not even being used to its full potential, is now being able to earn you money in return because it is being fully utilized. You are being able to rent it out. Think of it as your own personal Airbnb, but on the blockchain. This is a beauty in itself, which we will try and understand more in our upcoming videos. Today I would also want to touch upon a project like Grass. Now grass, what it does is it harnesses your unallocated internet bandwidth. What I mean by that is, say for example, you have a broadband connection and it has a daily cap of say 200 GB of fair usage policy. Now, when you look at those 200 GB of allocated data, we are not even using even 20% of it on a day-to-day basis, even if we stream 4K pure content. And that is, if you are even streaming 4K for 24 hours, you would not be able to exhaust that 200 GB of space. So now what these type of projects in the DePIN space do is, they tap into, through your permission, they tap into your Wi-Fi network and they start taking unused bandwidth of data for their own requirements. This bandwidth of unused internet that you are renting it out knowingly and willingly to these projects are able to use this bandwidth of high-speed data and train a new AI model or a new LLM model in its soul. Imagine the kind of impact you are having, and this is happening around the globe. And what is the beauty of it is, like when I say, like when you are using a centralized server, the biggest issue that comes in is once that centralized server goes offline for whatever reason it might be, your entire workflow goes for a toss until and unless that server doesn't come back online. When we go into the realm of decentralization, it does not matter where these servers are, where these infrastructure networks are stored. They will work in tandem, and every time a certain worker goes offline, another one is already standing as backup to come online and immediately start the process and keep that workflow going. This is exactly what Exa Protocol's Exa Drive aims to achieve in the decentralized physical infrastructure network. Here we are looking at data scalability and data storage. So for example, I as a user am using Exa Drive. I upload 9 GB of my file onto the network. This 9 GB of total file storage is broken into shards and stored onto different mobile networks, which are actually full nodes within the Exa Protocol's ecosystem. This helps me to understand that my files are not only encrypted, but I also have access to unlimited amount of storage for my needs, and according to my needs, I can use and pay within the ecosystem through Exa Drive's native token, which is ZAP. So you have to understand that how beautiful decentralization makes it. I do not need to have a server rack behind me with thousand and thousand terabytes of storage and having all my data locally stored there, because even if there is a technical glitch in one of those data servers in the rack, I lose a lot of data which might not be retrievable in the future. But when it comes to Exa Drive and decentralized space, I know that my files are being stored locally on a lot of smartphones in the highest encryption possible, which is only readable and retrievable by me, the actual user. So that is the beauty that DePIN brings into the space, and how it really harnesses the existing infrastructure network that we are using in our day-to-day life and taking it to the next level for the user as well as for the people who are renting out their infrastructure network without any hassles or creating any kind of new operating ecosystems. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and understood how DePIN works. We'll be covering a lot more in our upcoming videos, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, peace out.